So, I think I've talked a little bit about Gundam Wing in a previous video, so I won't go into great length about it today, but I will say that it was the first I had ever heard of Gundam. I was vaguely aware of anime. I had watched Robotech as a kid, which is the American version of Macross plus two other unrelated anime series that no one ever remembers because they're not very good. But the original Macross is fantastic, and even the American dubbing, which some would argue was a butchering of it, was pretty faithful. It was a good show. But Gundam Wing was brought over to North America in 2000, in the fall of 2000, and it got a huge marketing push. Cartoon Network in the States, and I think Teletoon in Canada both carried it. And it actually got two different dubs. There was the kid-friendly dub, and then there was the standard adult dub, which is the one that I think is mostly available on DVD and on home release for home video release and whatnot. The differences being that in the kid-friendly dub they would use words like destroy or the god of destruction for one of the characters, whereas in the adult version they would say kill or killed or dead or the god of death. But largely, the differences are mostly academic. There's not real. The adaptation was very faithful, and that was my first introduction to Gundam. I think I saw one or two episodes, and I was pretty hooked. First chance I got, I went out to a store and I bought my first ever Gundam kit, which was a 1/44th scale Wing Gundam Zero. It was about this big. I don't have it anymore. I have no idea what happened to it. It might be in a closet stashed somewhere at my parents' house. I have no idea. But I haven't seen it in years. And it was probably not a very good build because I didn't have tools or skills or patience. But for what it was a nice kit, and I was happy that I bought it. And I started buying a couple more, and then they started showing up at Toys R Us and Walmart, and then I started buying them way more. Until as quickly as I could, I had amassed the entire collection of both the 1/44th scale, the 1/100th scale of both the TV series and the Endless Waltz movie versions. Now, the TV series has a definitive ending. The war ends, the heroes win, the game is over, the bad guys are defeated, blah, blah, blah. The movie, which was actually originally released as an OVA and then re-edited into a 2-hour film with some additional footage a couple of years later, takes place 1 year after the end of the TV series. Now, the war is over. It was so devastating that people have pretty much given up on weapons and whatever, and the entire world has gone essentially pacifist, at least in theory. It's more complicated than that, but whatever. But one of the space colonies, the leader of this colony, stockpiles a few new mobile suit weapons, and a year later he launches an offensive against Earth in an effort to take over. And it's up to our heroes, the Gundam pilots from the series, to save the day. And in fact, they team up with the big bad, the villain, Zex Marquise, from the end of the series. They team up with him to fight the big bad of the movie, and it's actually really pretty awesome. When I did my video on the heavy arms, I talked about the upgrades that the mobile suits had gotten for the movie. They were redesigned from their original designs, which were done by Kunio Okawara for the TV series. They were redesigned for the film by Hajime Katoki. And again, if I'm butchering anybody's pronunciation, do forgive me. I try to do my best. I don't speak Japanese, but I can kind of fake it. Most of them got a fairly significant redesign. The Wing Zero being the most significant, having replaced the booster pods on its back with giant, comically oversized and truly ridiculous giant angel wings. That they look neat, but for practical purposes are absolutely absurd. On the other hand, you have the Death Scythe Hell Custom, which in the TV series, I think I talked about this in the Heavy Arms video, it has 4 wing panels that open up vertically at the shoulders, and they look kind of silly. For the Endless Waltz version, it turns into a cloak that opens up and forms like a giant Batman-type wing backpack that looks completely rad. And where the previous Death Scythe Hell had been, it had points, it was sharp, there were like pointy angles and sharp points and swords and knives sticking out of its knees and on its feet and all over the place. The movie version just took that to the extreme, and it put knives on top of knives and pointy bits on top of pointy bits, and it was amazing. But it streamlined it a bit in that it reduced the number of weapons that it had, and it made the weapons that it did have make a lot more sense. The Heavy Arms I talked at great length about in its video. It got, an upgraded color scheme, a lot more guns, and 2 big Gatling cannons to replace the single one that it had in the series. Then there's the Nataku, also known as the Ultron, which the redesign on it is really weird. The Ultron at the end of the series is kind of a mess. It has these dragon heads on the backs of each hand that flip out and over the hands, and they reveal big flamethrowers, and the arms extend and they launch out, and it grabs enemies and shoots them full of fire, and then they blow up. But it also had a double-ended beam trident and these weird wings on its back and a dragon tail cannon that it's kind of weird, and it's kind of a mess, and it's kind of dumb. But the movie version is also kind of dumb, but in a different way, and in a way that makes a little more sense. Instead of the entire arms extending, it has these giant dragon head shields mounted to its forearms that are on like these modules that are like, they extend accordion style. They flip out over the hand, and then they shoot out, and they have no flamethrowers in them anymore. They're pure melee weapons. They grab onto an enemy and they squeeze and they crush it. And it's silly, but it's silly in the best way. And it works. And the fight scene between the Nataku and the Wing Zero in that movie is actually top-notch, because the pilot of it kind of sides with the bad guys until he realizes, hey, maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Maybe this Barton guy is kind of an asshole. And then he sides with the good guys, and they all save the day. Finally, the last one, though, is the one that got the least redesigning, but I think probably works the best, and that is finally the Sandrock. The Sandrock Gundam, so named because it's designed for desert warfare. Its primary weapons are these giant swords. They're straight, pure swords. They're designed to be superheated to cut through enemy armor. They're not beam weapons. They're just straight, superheated metal swords, and they're really, really cool. The TV series version, they were a bit smaller, but basically the same. Overall, aside from the movie version getting a different color scheme, this thing is virtually unchanged from its original series version. There's just some slightly different, some tweaks in the armor, and that's really it. The head is virtually identical. The shape of the chest is virtually identical. It's really the skirt armors, the backpack, and the weapons, and the shoulder armors that really get any change at all. And even so, you look at the two of them side by side, look at line art for one and then look at the other, and you're like, I don't really see a huge difference between the two of them. And while all of the others, they had some kind of significant change between like this TV series color version and the movie color version, like for example the TV series version of Death Scythe, its initial configuration had no wings and had fewer spiky bits. The Wing Gundam had completely different wings, completely different color scheme, and a slightly different aesthetic. Heavy Arms had different weapons and a completely different color scheme. The Nataku, in its early form as the Shenlong, had only one dragon claw on the right arm and a different primary weapon. The Sandrock, between the two of them, literally the only difference between the TV series color version and the movie version is the color. There is no other difference whatsoever. So straight up, if I wanted to, I could repaint this in the slightly bluish purple and grays of the movie version, and I could call it good. and Bandai would never even have to release that color version ever. The only difference is that in the movie you never see it with the shield or the beam machine gun. That's it. That's the only change. So if they wanted to release this in that color, that's all they'd have to do is just leave these parts off and recolor it. And that's it. So let's take a closer look. So those are some mighty big swords. Each of them is about 8 inches long. We'll pop them off and we'll take a closer look just at them quickly because this will only take a second. Got this wicked curve to them. In the movie and in the series, actually, the blades are designed to heat up red hot, and to emulate that, they've given you the option of a replacement set of blades done in clear red as opposed to the slightly metallic gray. So you simply just swap them out. Simple as that. You've got superheated blades. The handles fold over so that the weapons can be stored on the mobile suit's backpack and look pretty wicked that way. When set up like that, they look pretty wicked, and they're on these articulated swing arms, so they can move around in quite unique ways. They've got there's a thruster on each one, so that these swing arms are not just there to make the swords look neat. They're actually functional. But additionally, the other weapon that the mobile suit has is a beam machine gun. Which you can probably tell is inspired by the Israeli Uzi submachine gun from the 70s. It's got a flip-out shoulder stock, and looks pretty neat. It's got a little camera sensor on the front, but it's pretty expendable. It was only used by the mobile suit at the very end of the series for like the last half dozen episodes or so, when the action moved into space, and the swords, which specifically I forgot to mention are called heat shotels. So it needed something that had a little bit more range than just close quarters heat swords. The hand grip folds down for stowage on the rear skirt, and that's pretty much it for the weapons. It uses the same type of hands as every other Gundam Wing type kit, just standard 4-finger blocks with articulated thumb. Just pegs into there's a little tab on the inside of the fingers, tabs into a slot on the gun, and it grips it very securely. It's not likely to pop out at any time, so I'm just going to pop that off so I'm not having to worry about it. And I'll take these off as well, because now we're going to take a look at an additional weapon that it has that it only used, to my recollection, a single time in the series, but virtually every model kit of this thing has gone to great lengths to show off, and it's called the Cross Crusher. So you can see the two heat shotels, they attach to the shield, which clamps onto the forearm, and they're on kind of a geared hinge that the two of them can clamp together and form kind of a scissors action. The idea being that the mobile suit will launch itself through the air and trap an enemy mobile suit between the blades. They'll superheat and it'll close and cut the enemy mobile suit in half. It's really silly, but it looks kind of neat. And if the shield was a little more evocative of the one in the show, which looked really like a snake head, I think it would work a little bit better. But it's still pretty neat. And I'm glad they included it, even though I will never ever display it in this configuration because it's kind of dumb. But still neat. The mobile suit itself is it uses the same exact engineering as all of the other Gundam Wing kits to date so far have used. It has the same exact arms with new armor, same exact legs with new armor, largely the same torso with new armor. Has an opening cockpit, the same as everything else does. Articulation, same as anything else. Got your hinge shoulders. Shoulder armors can hinge up a little bit to allow more freedom of movement. They have this little additional armor panel on the side too that allows wider outward movement of the arms. You got your bicep swivel. You got your double hinge elbows, which are a little bit restricted. engineering's a little bit could use a little bit of work to allow a little bit more of an elbow bend, but whatever. These are in the mid-tier, lower level engineering for Gundam, master grade Gundam kits. And then you got a wrist swivel ball joint, pretty good range on that. So lots of movement out of that wrist. Plus you got your articulated thumb and then the standard 4-finger block. So you got splayed out fingers, you got fist, you got hands for gripping the guns and other weapons. A few other assorted ones. Head, not too bad. Got some decent side to side. You got a bit of an up and down, and good rotation. But side to side is hindered a little bit because the head is flared out quite a lot. It's actually not these modules on either side of the head that reduce the head side to side movement. It's actually the head it's kind of a helmet design, and it kind of bangs into the collar a little bit, reduces the articulation a little. Got a good waist, got a decent ab crunch. It's a double ball joint, so it got some decent movement out of that waist. I mentioned earlier that the backpack has these articulated booster pods, which is it's a neat effect. I like the way they did it. It works out a lot better than the old high grade kit did. Not that it did it badly, it just wasn't as good. Skirts, largely the same as anything else we've looked at recently, just on ball joints. Side and rear just on a single ball joint, and then the front also has a hinge. I find that these ones pop off a lot less than the heavy arms did, which is nice. Because that one tended to pop off at the drop of a hat. Hips, you got your standard, universal joints, full rotation, thigh swivel, double jointed knee with articulated armor part here. Nothing in the thigh, which was kind of a surprise to me. But the knee, at least you've got this good big panel that moves out. And ankle, you got a limited side to side, but a good front to back on the upper ankle, and then the lower ankle is pretty much unrestricted. Working with the upper ankle, you can get a good wide range of movement out of that ankle. And also it has a mid-foot hinge. No toe, but just a mid-foot up and down. So articulation on this thing is quite good. Very much so on the same level as the heavy arms and the Wing Proto Zero and any of the others that I've done recently. The shield has an interesting little peg on it to attach it to the arm. So if you're using it in the cross crusher configuration, you'll need it set this way, which is extended a little bit. Or if you're just attaching it straight to the arm, you use it like that. The reason for the other way is that it gives it a little bit more. It moves it out a little bit from the side of the arm to give it a little more room to use the gimmick. And the shield also has claws that kind of move up and down. It's not so evocative in this design, but the TV series version is explicitly has the face of a snake on it. You can see it kind of looks like one this way, but maybe with the fangs down a little bit. But it's not quite as evocative of one in this way. But the Sandrock I've always really liked. I've kind of liked the big flared out shoulder armors. It's kind of has an Arabic aesthetic, but kind of Romanesque as well. With the big mohawk frill, kind of making it look like a Legionnaire's helmet. Another thing I forgot to mention actually is these shoulders have a little sliding armor panel here. There's a socket right there. That is designed to accommodate the sand cloak that the Sandrock wears in the movie for all of 2 scenes. So if they do release a master grade of the movie version, then that's what those will be there for. So they can, because it has these slightly bigger shoulder armors and a big 2-half fabric cloak. Because like I said, this thing was designed for operations in the desert, so it would need a cloak to protect it from sand. But for the purposes of the movie, they only included it because it looked neat. So that is the Sandrock. I'm not going to say it was one of my favorite models I've done recently. because it's basically the same engineering as any of the other Gundam Wing kits. So realistically, you know, it's same arms, same legs, new armor, and different weapons. So it's not a top tier type kit that you know, is completely unique from anything else, and you know, they've done a full engineering job on. But it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun building it. I've actually heard that some people have had a lot of trouble building its head. I'm assuming because it's got a lot of really small parts. And considering I have such huge, you know, sausage fingers, I was expecting to have a lot more trouble than I did, but it went together for me just perfectly. The entire kit went together really well. I had a really fun time building it. You know, it's got enough features that are different enough from the others in the series that I actually really want to get the others. I've already got the Death Scythe Hell, the Heavy Arms, one of the Wing Gundams, and now this. So the only one I don't have at all is the Shenlong. And they've got one at one of the shops here in town, so I'm probably going to get one next time I get paid. So we'll be probably taking a look at that in the next 2 weeks or so. But I've still got my fingers crossed that they're eventually going to do all of them in their movie color schemes as well. Because, as I said, so far the only two that they've done are Wing Zero and Death Scythe Hell. And if they do a Heavy Armed in that color scheme, I'm just going to jump for joy, because that dark blue and turquoise on gray with the double Gatling cannons is the most 90s thing ever, and it is so cool. And I want one so bad. Bandai, damn you for making me wait. So anyway, those are what I've been working on lately, and that's pretty much all I've got left in my stash. Plus the unicorn. So I may get onto that eventually, but I'm not in any big hurry. I'm going to try and keep producing every now and then. My output will reduce, but I'm going to try and do at least something every week for the next little while. But once I do get back to working full time, the job I do, you know, in the summertime is, you know, 12 days on, 2 days off. Plus, you know, if I can manage to squeeze an extra day here and there, I'll see if I can do that. But yeah, the summertime output is going to reduce a lot. I will never forget my fans. I will never forget those people that my subscribers. I've gotten a fairly decent boost in my subscribers recently, so I'm very grateful for that. So that is where I'm going to leave you. Thank you everyone out there for watching, and happy modeling.